Welcome, everyone. Welcome once again to this week's edition of the Serial Test Show. Episode number 86, 86 straight weeks of the Serial Test Show. We are available for download at wheelhouseradio.com, wrestlechat.net, twfnews.com, and camelclutchblog.com. I am one half of the Wrestling Podcast Tag Team Champions of the world. And joining me once again for the third straight week, filling in for Eric Arjulo. Welcome back. Redneck Revolution members, rejoice. Captain Obvious, welcome back once again to this week's edition of the Surreal Test Show. What's going on, buddy?
Oh, nothing much. Just enjoying some well-deserved time off, rest and relaxation, trying to get the Redneck Revolution up and rising, trying to get a bunch of things going. Got so many balls in the air, you would think I was a porn star.
Ooh, I love it. Back to the Captain analogy, which may or may not continue to be a character on this show. As Captain, before the show, giving me a whole bunch of analogies. Some we probably can't talk about on the show. But nonetheless, welcome once again to this week's edition of the Still Real Test Show. Thank you for downloading the Still Real Test Show. We're going to talk a lot about a lot of different things going on this week, Captain. We're going to talk about Jimmy Uso getting arrested for DUI. It's going to branch out more to whether or not there is a growing problem going on in the world of wrestling right now in regards to DWIs and DUIs. A couple, basically playing off of a blog I wrote this week for camelclutchblog.com. We're going to talk about Hulk Hogan re-signing with TNA. Very ironic, Captain Obvious in the house. We have some TNA news, or maybe not ironic at all. And we're going to see if that's a good or bad move for the future of TNA wrestling. A couple weeks ago, Captain and I broke down whether or not Hogan was going to re-sign and whether or not this was a turning point for TNA, and that's not the pay-per-view we're talking about, but a turning point for TNA that would move them forward or beyond in the eyes of many wrestling fans past the Hogan era. It looks like the Hogan era will continue in TNA wrestling. We'll talk a little bit about that. And we also have a question this week coming into us, a single question, of course. We're just going to have a good show, like we do every week. It's the Wrestling Podcast Tag Team Champions of the world. But kicking into gear, our top story for this week, Captain, we're going to talk a little bit about the last 2 days of WWE television programming that wrestling fans have at least seen. Not talking about the SmackDown spoilers, of course. We're going to talk about our thoughts on the end angle, the finished angle, main event angle, if you will, from Hell in a Cell, as well as the final angle from Monday Night Raw this past Monday night. Very critical and crucial moments in storyline developments, at least for the fall of 2011 when it comes to WWE programming. Captain, let's get right into it about the finish there of Hell in a Cell. Alberto Del Rio regains the WWE Championship. You and I were kind of a little bit on the fence here, back and forth. Nobody really saw CM Punk winning it. I went with Punk to do a little bit of a out of the dark pick. Ended up being Alberto Del Rio. I believe you picked John Cena. Alberto Del Rio will now head into Mexico. The Monday Night Raw in Mexico as the WWE Champion. Were you shocked by the finish at all, Alberto Del Rio winning once again the WWE title?
I wasn't shocked by him winning the belt. I was a little more shocked. I liked the way the ending came about with Cena getting locked out of the ring. That's a new twist. We haven't seen that one really done before. You know, anytime you can do a finish that's new and exciting, you know, you're going to get the fans behind it. I love seeing Del Rio with the title back. I hope this leads to him becoming more of a respectable champion, unlike the first reign, which is a little short, maybe premature. You know, I'm hoping this last month it's kind of been, you know, kind of a wake up call for Del Rio to really step his game up if he wants to be the bell cow for the heels on Raw.
Yes, it appears now he is the top heel, not only on the Raw brand, but quite possibly in SmackDown. I know people would argue Mark Henry a little bit of a bigger heel right now, not in weight or in muscles, but in overall character development. Maybe Mark Henry a little bit of a bigger heel, but Del Rio certainly making the climb right now. Before we get into Del Rio talk, I want to talk a little bit about what's next for Del Rio after we discuss really the big angles that happened at Hell in a Cell and at Monday Night Raw, Captain. Starting with Hell in a Cell, match ends. Cell goes back up. John Cena slides under. Cell goes down. The Awesome Truth come out from under the ring, enter the under the cell, enter the ring, and just lay on a full-on beatdown. I love the images of the WWE roster emptying out to shake the cage. I don't understand why. 20 wrestlers were just shaking the cage in hopes that it would break down. Because how many times have we seen the Hell in a Cell just be shaken down to pieces? Never. That was a cool sight to see, heels and faces working together, of course. I always have felt like wrestling fans, including myself, have always ate up when the faces and heels come together to go up against a single person or group. We saw it back in WCW days with the NWO. Saw it a little bit there with the Nexus. Seeing it now with the Awesome Truth a little bit there. Awesome Truth lay on a beatdown not only onto John Cena, Alberto Del Rio, and CM Punk, but as well as onto referees and cameramen. Cage door finally opens by bolt cutters. Officers arrest The Miz and R-Truth. They're pulled out of the cage in handcuffs. Triple H attacks them, and not only attacks them, but also John Laurinaitis. And as Hell in a Cell is going off the air, Triple H being held back. Quite of an interesting sight to see for wrestling fans. Obviously, this is leading to what we'll discuss momentarily here about what happened on Monday Night Raw, but it appears right now from a storyline perspective, Captain Obvious, the cracks of Triple H's reign as WWE COO is certainly starting to break more and more each week on television. Are you intrigued by what they did at Hell in a Cell, or did you not really care all that much and wanted to see a little bit more from Monday Night Raw?
No, I thought it was a great ending to Hell in a Cell. I mean, anytime you can have the unexpected happen, it keeps you interested. It was reminiscent of, Bash at the Beach when the NWO was formed. We really didn't see, you and I had talked about when we see the Awesome Truth, at Hell in a Cell. It's definitely a different angle in the way they played it out. I think it was kind of refreshing. I like the fact that, you saw Miz and R-Truth, instead of trying to fight the police, they just gave themselves up after the beatdown. It was basically more or less, sending a message that, we're after we're after our jobs, not to cause problems with the police, but, they wanted to make a point, and I think the way they played it out did a great job.
Yeah, it's different, which I'll give them that, and it's intriguing because it obviously led to people to tune into Raw the next night and see where this was going. We saw that this union is kind of forming around a little bit of David Otunga as the lawyer. You've really got Christian, Dolph Ziggler, Cody Rhodes, Alberto Del Rio, Wade Barrett, a whole bunch of heels going up against Triple H as the COO. Most of the roster, with the exception of some big names like CM Punk, John Cena, Randy Orton, not outside at the end of Monday Night Raw. Most of the roster standing around, faces, heels, divas, refs, announcers, cameramen, all end up walking out on Triple H. Not one single member of the WWE roster standing behind the COO. It appears, obviously, the vote of no confidence for Triple H as the head of COO, which leads us into SmackDown this coming Friday, which will then eventually lead us into Raw next week. Where do you see this thing heading right now? Is it only a matter of time that Triple H hangs it up as the COO and goes back to an in-ring performer? Or is this leading to something a little bit bigger? Is this maybe all part of the master plan that we've seen kind of develop as Triple H's time as COO has gone on here? Stuff with Nash at SummerSlam, Night of Champions, the Awesome Truth caused a little bit of a ruckus, which led to their firing, and then did the same thing at Hell in a Cell. What is this angle going to eventually point out or lead us to as we head into Vengeance as well as Survivor Series, Captain?
Well, I'm hoping it's not just a small angle where we see Triple H leave and then, anonymous GM come back, which I was actually very proud of WWE for actually removing the anonymous GM booth the last couple of weeks. We haven't seen, even after Triple H came back and took over the CO, we would still see the anonymous GM stand there. They finally removed it, so I was happy about that. I'm hoping we see this play out into a much larger thing, like a full-scale roster warfare. I'm still awaiting the return of the evil Mr. McMahon in all this. I think that's where we're going to be headed, that there's going to be somebody else pulling the strings. It was hinted at when they were talking about who raised the cell, who lowered the cell. I think that's where we're headed. We're going to see full-scale roster warfare between the heels and the faces on WWE TV.